Today, let's talk about feminism within, or feminism in all but name as it manifests itself within conservative circles today, within rightish or right wing circles um, in a contemporary setting. I just got finished listening to a podcast, um, Catherine Dee's podcast, where she interviewed and Geo was involved and somebody else was involved, and they were talking about whatever, what became of the alt right and what's the difference between the alt right and the dissident right and all these kind, and what's different, 8 years later, um, and one of the things that came up along the way was that there are more women in conservative circles now. They were saying, um, more female voices who were openly conservative, and whereas the original alt right, as it manifested in 2015, 2016, what the world came to know or what the media came to portray as the alt right. Everybody knows it existed well before that, and was radically different from what it morphed into in a lot of ways when it became this Twitter meme war, edgelord shitpost kind of phenomenon that it did around that time period. Today there are more women in conservative circles, and uh, that's good. you know, I think it's good. As a conservative, I'm going to say I think it's good to have more women. It's good to have more of everybody. The more the merrier. Um, and uh, so that's not a problem as far as I'm concerned. I want to make that clear. The fact that more women, if it's true, and I mean I'll take their word for it. I'll take these guys' word for it because they know the landscape better than I do. Uh, if there are more women now, then good. But here's something that I've noticed about women in right-wing spheres is that often women in conservative uh, spheres, as a seedy-looking person walks by, goodbye, sir. Keep walking. Um, Something I've noticed is that a lot of them are very discontented with men. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of men on in rightish circles who are discontented with the ladies, with contemporary women, with what do they say, modern women. Um, and I could even be accused of being one such person from time to time, although I don't think of myself. I certainly don't regard myself as a misogynist hater. Um, but I've voiced some opinions or expressed some thoughts from time to time that were not flattering necessarily about the contemporary state of woman in the West. But a lot of these women who occupy these spheres of influence in conservative circles, they tend to go on about various things. One thing that I've talked about this before. One thing that they harp on is pornography, and men being the reason why men can't be men these days, the reason why men are so disappointing to them these days, is because pornography. They just, you know, 85% of men, or whatever percent, I don't know what percent they would say, are addicted to porn, and that's why, you know, and being addicted to porn means that that you just you don't want to deal with a real woman. Now, a lot of them, or very few of them, ask the question, why might these modern men not want to deal with modern women? You know, what if they are escaping into porn, which I'm not saying is good if it's true. I'm anti-porn myself, but you know, that might invite some self-examination, right? If men would rather, you know, get their fixes, get their needs satisfied online, with, shall we say, spicy content, than be with a real woman. I mean, the way that they express it is something, you know, they express it using very shame centered language, like, oh, this is weak. You're a weak man for doing this. You're not a real man. But they might want to ask themselves, and again, I'm not defending men who watch porn, or anyone who watches porn. I'm against porn. And as I pointed out before, most of the manosphere is anti-porn. That's the ironic thing. Most of the men who these women, these conservative women, are dissatisfied with, the ones who occupy the manosphere and who have these critiques of women that are often expressed. They talk about pornography, but it doesn't seem to. They don't seem to understand that most of the manosphere types are very anti-porn today, and you know, like NoFap is a big thing. And you know, the liberal left, you know, gets the willies over NoFap, as I've discussed before, because they think it's just it's basically fascism. You're basically a fascist if you're a NoFap adherent. But these women in conservative spaces online today don't really seem to acknowledge the NoFap stuff. They don't really seem to acknowledge the heavy anti-porn messaging of the manosphere. I mean, people like Andrew Tate say, "Get off the porn. Don't watch porn. You're degrading yourself when you watch porn." And I know these women hate Andrew Tate, and I'm not defending Andrew Tate, but I mean, why can't they just say, well, he's right about that? Or why can't they just say, well, these manosphere types, I don't like a lot of what they do, but at least they are telling young men to get off porn, and to have self-control. You don't hear that, though. At least I haven't heard that sort of take from these sorts of circles. What I've heard instead is just, talking about how men are addicted to pornography, and how that's affecting what you know, their behavior, and how they can't be real men. They can't be masculine. Like, these women can't get into their feminine unless they're with a man who's in his masculine. And of course, another thing that you run into is these women go gaga over, like there was a story about Henry Cavill, the handsome actor, played Superman, and has been in a movies and stuff. And there was something on EV.com. Again, EV gets cited. I cite EV a lot. I pick on EV a lot, but I mean, I think this is an example of what I'm talking about. There was they had a post there where they said, oh, he's such a gentleman. He always stands when a woman enters the room. He always stands, just like men used to do back in the 30s, And why can't we have more men like this? And all of the women coming on saying, "Oh, that's so hot. That's so hot. Chivalry is so hot." And I'm like, no, chivalry is not hot to you all. Henry Cavill is hot to y'all. Henry Cavill belching would be hot, maybe not quite as hot, but Henry Cavill being chivalrous is hot because Henry Cavill is chivalrous. So again, there's also this blind spot that women have. I'm afraid. I know how that makes me sound when I say that, but it's, and I'm not trying to be. I don't want to be unfair, and I don't want to be intemperate, but it does seem to me that it's very hard to get women to see that when they have problems with men, it's the men that they're focusing on are the sort of men that they are interested in, i.e., the ones who have options, the ones who are more handsome, the ones who are higher status, the ones who are more desirable. So yeah, these men have options, and so yeah, they're going to be, they're probably going to use you if you sleep with them, if you make the mistake of fornicating with them. They're gonna use you, and they're gonna they won't call you back, and then they'll sleep with somebody else, and you'll find yourself feeling used and abused, instead of you had high hopes that this man was going to be, this highly desirable man whom you were attracted to was going to be a gentleman, and would call you back, and want to see you again, and want to be in a monogamous relationship with you. Well, you're, again, for the small handful of women out there who are watching this video, and those who watch my videos might not even have to hear this, because they're probably the ones who already know. But but in case there are those out there who don't know this, when you talk about men, and you're only you what you when someone asks you, who do you mean by men, and you rattle off these exes that you've had, or these men who you've had these embarrassing one night stands with, or who have flirted with you, and you felt charmed, and then you found out that they were just leading you along, and being caddish, and what have you. Those are when you say men and you think about those guys, those are a small handful of the the category that is men. Okay, so if you say men just can't commit, men are just emotionally immature, uh, and blame it on pornography, or you even say things like, well, they just they're just into sex, and they have commitment phobia. Not really commitment phobia. They just don't want to commit. They've got options. All right. It's just like when you have options, and a man who has a chance to sleep with a lot of women is probably going to do it. A woman who has a chance to sleep with a lot of men, if she does it, that's not, she doesn't esteem herself for it, and she doesn't feel better about herself, and she doesn't feel more desirable or more desired for doing that, because she knows that as a woman, she's pretty easy pickings. Men don't have men don't have incredibly high standards as far as who they'll sleep with. So, but women do have high standards. So, if a man sleeps with a lot of women, he's considered, that shows that he has options, because he's able to make desirable women, the women he desires to sleep with, capitulate to his wishes. So this tendency to just to get aggravated with men, quote unquote, and then when you talk about men, you're meaning the men that you that you find desirable, who don't behave the way you want them to behave. It would be great if more women could understand that blind spot that they have. I'm talking to conservative women too, even though one would think that conservative women would not be the types to give themselves away like that, but we all know stuff happens, even in conservative circles, even amongst religious people, who believe in marriage and who believe in wedlock, who think that one shouldn't have sex outside of marriage, and I agree. We all know stuff happens. So anyhow, that's a factor. That's a problem within for online conservative women. There's this tendency, when they're engaging with in debate, or in back and forth with men, there's this tendency to employ this scolding, shaming kind of language, like you're just being weak. You just like the man's gonna say, this woman doesn't approve of me. I better step it up. I better man up now, because this random woman, maybe a woman, you never know online, this random person online is telling me that I need to step it up. So gosh, I better get my shit together and be the kind of man that she wants me to be. So there's that, and there's also something else that was discussed on this podcast that I think is interesting. Is this, and I'd forgotten about this, but I guess a few months ago there was controversy about there were like female conservative influencers who posed in bikinis or something like that, or in bathing suits for a calendar magazine, so it was, you turn to January, there's Miss January, conservative influencer A, posed in a bikini, and then February is another influencer, and so forth and so on down the line. And a lot of conservative women got up in arms about this and thought to themselves, well, men, these men are going to be buying these calendars. What kind of men are they? They shouldn't be, men shouldn't be wanting to look at beautiful women, scantily clad beautiful women, and so there's more of this, I don't know, this sort of Nurse Ratched kind of kind of you know, like I guess maybe Karenish, like disapproval, clucks of disapproval. Um, and I'm not defending men buying calendars, calendars with scantily clad women. I don't do that myself, and I think it is. I think it's tacky, but it's like the guys on this podcast were saying. It's not that big of a deal, is it? I mean, it's if and again, the point that they make also is you want men uh, to be manly. Well, manly men are going to like scantily clad women who are attractive. They're going to like to look at them. So you know, um, there should be some allowance made for that. But instead, it was just men need to do better. It's always men need to lead better. If men would just lead, yeah, they say something like, yeah, women may be acting obnoxious online a lot these days, and maybe maybe a lot of the critiques of modern women are valid, but it's not actually women's fault. It's men's fault because men have abdicated being men. They've abdicated being leaders, and they need to step up and be the proper leaders of their marriage and of marriages and of families and if they were leaders, if men would just become more masculine and be leaders, then women would become more more feminine and more inclined to submit and be and to follow their men's lead. But it's because men are just a bunch of masturbating, disgusting, immature, uh, you know, little boys. That's the reason why women are, it's so like it it's on the right, and like this is what's kind of interesting about it. These are women who are definitely actually conservative. They're on the right, but the kind of complaints that they have about men are so similar. They carry such a similar vibe to what you'd find in regular feminist circles. You know, um, like a mainstream feminist is gonna say, yeah, men, because men are bad because blah blah blah, they're just a bunch of rapists and this, that, and the other thing, and sexual harassers, and it's all toxic masculinity and whatever, and scold, shame, 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 and these women don't use this. They don't talk about those. They don't talk about rape culture or toxic masculinity. They use different terms, but the impression that is left is you get it leaves the same. It leaves very much the same impression. Um, the overall feel of it, the taste of it, is very similar. It's these women who are angry and vengeful and think it's men's fault and blame men for the problems of the world. Now, men are not to be excused. Men are not to be, uh, um, you know, when men commit bad behavior, they ought to be called to task for it. And I'm one. I'm certainly one who does such a thing. who believes that such things, and men should be. Uh, I mean, if a man is not doing what he's supposed to be doing, he should be called to task for it. Everyone should be. Men should be, and women should be, both. But with these types of women, it seems to be exclusively about how the problems right now are because men aren't stepping up and being the leaders that they should be, and they're getting addicted to porn, and they're being immature and sleeping with women, using women, and then just moving on and ghosting and so forth, which again is like 5%, 5 to 10% maybe. The top tier, the cream of the crop are doing that because they can afford to do that kind of thing. Not that kind of behavior is good. It's not. It's not honorable, but I just wish it would make my day if some woman out there were to say, yeah, look, yeah, I know, I get it. When we talk about men, we're not talking about the vast majority of men, because the vast majority of men today are invisible to us. We don't think, the statistic about how, what was it, from an OkCupid survey, about how only like 80% of men are considered unattractive, according to this survey, whereas men, uh, with men's concerning feelings about women's attractiveness, a much higher extent. It just sort of, it's like like the very attractive is 5%, and then it goes then it goes up to the in the middle, and then down at the end. So men, if there's a woman who's slightly above average in looks, a man's going to say, yeah, she's attractive. But a man has to be, the standards that women have for men have been shown to be much higher, and so that needs to be factored in. It would be great if just some woman out there could admit this. It would make my day. I'll stop there.